Hey everybody, it's Alexander Dahl with Manifest Brutality once again. So we're getting ready to roll into Wave 5 here, and I've got many interviews already booked out for the next month or so. So we're going to kind of do it the same way we did it for the last wave, where I'll just run through all the interviews, I'll publish them once every few days, and once we get through them, we'll get through them. So we have kind of an exciting batch for Wave 5 coming up here. And so we're going to start out with somebody from overseas. So without dragging this out any further, here you go. All right, bye. All right, so I'm currently on the phone with Andre. He's another one of the musicians that has reached out to me about the current interview series going on. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for having me. My name is André. I'm a Portuguese citizen, currently living in Portugal, near Lisbon, and I work in music as well as, and I also have another side job which is working in acoustics as well. And I am basically I'm a singer-songwriter. Basically, I think it resumes.
Sure, definitely. So I always like to start kind of at the beginning. How did you first find music? How did you first identify it as something that you wanted to have in your life?
Well, I think the main reason was my parents. So my mother is a linguistics teacher. So and my father was always connected to music. And while I was a kid, my father was in the Portuguese Navy, and so he went to, for instance, to Sweden or to England, and he brought vinyls and CDs from famous bands like Queen, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually my first connection to music, was through my father bringing those records from abroad. Because keep in mind that Portugal was out of a dictatorship back in the late 70s. So, for instance, if like a famous American or British band released a record, it would just come out in Portugal after a few months.
Mm-hmm.
So the release dates from the records were different in Portugal compared to other countries. So what my father brought me to the table, basically, was the opportunity to listen to that kind of music sooner than everybody else.
Okay. And then how did you kind of make the first steps into kind of deciding that was something that you wanted to do? You wanted to play an instrument or sing?
Okay, so I had piano lessons when I was probably around 5 years old. Then I kind of quit the music for a couple of years, and then I start having classical guitar lessons when I was around 12 or 13, as well as connecting to the electrical guitar as well. And that when I was maybe 13 or 14, that was the time when I actually decided, okay, this is something that I like and I identify with. So I'm going to evolve and basically bet part of my life on this career.
And then once you did kind of make that decision, were you in any sort of like school program for it, or did you do it all like in your own personal time?
No, I was in a Portuguese music school, taking music lessons after the high school lessons, basically. So it was like an extra time activity, basically.
Okay. And then how did you, once you felt comfortable performing with your instrument and writing, how did you kind of take the first steps into, creating your artist persona?
Yeah, that kind of took me a long time, to be honest, because I was studying classical music for maybe 5 years or something like that, classical guitar basically, and all of a sudden I kind of get a bit fed up with because classical music is very strict and it's very good in terms of technical ability, but there's no space for improvisation. There's no space for creating your own music. So I kind of drop out the music school that I was enlisted in Portugal, and I moved to another music school, which is more focused in like jazz music, basically. And then I also switched my instruments. I was a classical guitar player, and I decided, okay, I'm going to give up classical guitar and I'm going to focus on singing because I also always identify myself as a singer as well. And so I made that switch maybe in my early 20s or something like that. And that was the time when I started to play with people and um, uh, maybe find people to do a covers band and something like that.
Okay. And so essentially the first like groups that you played with were cover bands that
Yeah,
were
yeah, that's right. Yes.
okay. And what was the music scene like when coming out of post dictatorship and then trying to reinitiate like the creation of your culture? Like what was that like?
Well, the Portugal got out of the dictatorship in 1974. So I was
Mhm.
born a few years later.
Mhm.
But the 80s and the early 90s in music in Portugal were very active. So there's lots of the music scene was sometimes very underground as well. Um, and there's lots of small gigs to play. And I basically have been involved in that music scene up until the current days, basically.
Sure. And so, what is the current project that you're working on? Are you working on like something solo, or are you working with other people?
No, I'm working as a solo artist at the moment. To be honest, I got a little bit fed up of being dependent on other people.
Hmm.
And for instance, I had a music project maybe 10 years ago, which lasted around 5 or 6 years, with a singer, and it was like a pop soul project. But then, life pushes people to different situations, and the project just ends.
Hmm.
And I just decided, okay, now it's time for me to focus on my solo project, and I'm just going to do everything myself, and I'm just going to try to make it last as long as I can.
Sure. And so, are you currently writing material for it, or have you been putting out material for it?
Yes, I'm lucky enough to have like a decent home studio
Hmm.
where I live at the moment, and I basically can record my stuff at any time of the day or night. And I also play different instruments. So I play piano, bass guitar, classical guitar, electrical guitar,
Hmm.
a bit of drums as well. I'm basically able to write a song from the scratch all by myself, and just it's it's actually it's quite a complex process, and it's lots of artwork, but at least I'm not dependent on other people at the moment, and I have the
Hmm.
freedom to work at any time of the day or night when the inspiration comes.
Sure. And so, what would you say your motivation for continuing to create is?
Well, that's not a question actually. I actually tried to put music aside a few years ago and focus solely on my, like, let's say, main job. It's not my main job because it's 50-50. But no, there's something within me that just cannot um, live without music. So I have this urge inside of me to create music, to keep on recording and producing and etc. etc.
Okay. And so, why don't you share a couple stories that have happened to you surrounding music that really stick out in your mind, whether it be, a show you went to or, getting started playing music?
Okay, so let me think. So I lived in London for a couple of years. So actually, I've been in the UK on and off for probably 15 years. Um, I've been in London. The last time I was living in London was from 2014 to 2017, and London is a very active and cultural city. So there's lots of people playing everywhere.
Hmm.
I used to I used to play very often, probably 2 or 3 times a week. And I think one of the things that I did that I didn't do in Portugal was actually playing on the streets, and it was actually pretty fun, to be honest.
So essentially getting out there and doing some busking. Were you playing
Yeah,
guitar or?
yeah, just like playing guitar or just playing guitar and singing just out of nothing. Just bring my amp and my microphone and just set up the equipment and start gigging.
Sure, definitely. And what kind of responses did you get from that?
Well, actually, from total from total how shall I say, um, totally ignoring my performances for to people coming out after the like after the small performances and telling me, okay, you sounded great. Here's £5 and something like that. So
Awesome.
it was it was very diverse.
Definitely
One of
some
the
mixed
I
signals.
also played in I also played in a couple of nice venues in London. I think the most known is called Proud Camden, which is a beautiful space in Camden Town, and it's a gorgeous space. And I think that was one of the highlight moments of my stay in London.
So, what made you go, I guess, first of all, to London and then back to Portugal?
Okay, so I've studied engineering in London, probably on the early, maybe let me check, on 2004, 2005. Then I went back to Portugal. Then
Hmm.
on 2010, I went back to London again and did a master degree in music,
Oh,
also near London. Then I went back to Portugal again. And then I don't know, because the music scene in Portugal is very active, but just if you are a covers band. If
okay.
you're doing original project, it's much more difficult to play, to be honest. And in London, I think it's quite the opposite. I think English people and people in London they give you credit if you're doing your own music and not just playing a covers band.
Okay.
And that I think that was one of the main reasons which I felt okay. I'm going to move out to London for a few years and see how it goes.
Hmm.
Then in 2017, I came back probably because my life in London was not moving forward as much as I wished. So I just decided, okay, no, I'm relocating to Portugal again.
Yeah, that's
But I
actually
want to move out again. But I want to move out again, to be honest.
back to
But
London or just
no,
somewhere
no, no,
else.
not back to London. Back probably to LA.
Oh, okay.
I've been in the United States a couple of times, and
Okay.
I really dig the atmosphere over there. So one of my goals actually would be to relocate in the United States.
Oh, sure. Have you looked into like citizenship processes and everything?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did, but it's quite difficult to get the visa card and etc. etc.
Sure, sure.
So
Um,
yeah, I did.
oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah. That's one of my goals that I'm actually studying slowly. How I'm going to relocate to United States in let's say in on over the next 5 years or something like that, probably.
Sure,
So not
definitely.
not for tomorrow, but for maybe you know in a 5 year period. So I want to live in the United States. So that's one of my goals, to be honest.
Sure. Well, that's how they say to make goals is do it in 5 year increments.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So, what are some links where people can actually take a listen to the stuff that you're making?
Yeah, so I have a website. So probably most of the information it's on my website. It's andreadebrito.com. Then I have all the social media and YouTube, Instagram. So I'm not daily active on social media, but I try to post as much as I can.
All right. And then I always like to give the person that I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So just a message that you kind of feel resonates with you that you want to put out there.
So do you want to talk about my professional side or just a general message here?
Well, it's kind of just a general message, but it's whatever you want. If you want to say something on the professional side, go for it.
So I'll probably just say two things. So first thing is that this relates to my music professional side. So I just released the single, which is called Queen of Spades, and I have like a new YouTube video, and I even got a couple of awards here in Europe for the music video. So if people want to know more about me, you can check my YouTube channel and have a look at I'm doing right now. About the general message, I don't know. I think we are living hard times nowadays with the pandemic and the lockdowns and everything. And I just hope that probably in 2020, 2022, I just hope that we will have a much better year than this one, and for people not to lose hope, because I think that things are going to improve a lot.